friends, it's Brittany at Ink and Papyrus. How are you? Today I am looking at making some gorgeous signature pages for my spring journal. I'm focusing on using a lot of bright colors. I think bright colors and pastels are definitely going to be the way to go with this really pretty spring journal I made. If you're interested in how I made this cover, I will include the link above and in the description box. So my jelly plate is still wet right now. I put down some acrylics of a few different colors, yellow, pinks, a little bit of purple in there. I laid a stencil down, put a new piece of copy paper over it, lifted it up so I have the print of that. But now what I would like to do is when this dries, I'm going to put down a whole new layer of paint and pick up that image, and let's see what we get. So the goal today is going to be to make some gorgeous signature pages for my journal, my spring journal. I would absolutely love to create some prints too that I can use in making some ephemera pieces I want to make. You're going to see me using a few different techniques, but they're all going to be very basic, and we're just going to be using a gel plate, paints, paintbrushes, maybe some watercolors, mostly acrylics. Some of these stencils I even made myself just with a hot glue gun, which I can kind of show you. I mean, it's very, very simple, but you're going to absolutely love these. Very, very simple. If you don't love how the print came out, I'm going to show you some ways to spruce them up, jazz them up, so don't throw them away. These are just a basic starting point. I'm so excited to put these in my journal. Look at these clusters we made. If you don't remember, I will also include that in the description box, but look how perfect this is. I think I might use that as a pocket or like a tuck spot on the signature page. Let me show you some of the other, while this dries, let me show you some of the other clusters, spring style clusters I made. And I'm just thinking how cool these color combinations are going to look together. And I'm kind of using these color combinations to inspire the prints that I'm currently making, and also using them to kind of inspire the prints that I make. So like the one with the bird, I'm thinking, okay, so let me make a nature bird floral themed print. Maybe we'll put a cluster on every signature page. I don't know, just a thought. But I just love the florals and the bright colors so much. This is finally dry. Okay, if you're wondering how you can check if the paint on your gel plate is dry, just tap it and make sure nothing comes up on your finger. Now you still want to be careful when you're putting the paint down. You want to make sure that you don't press too hard. I'm thinking I'm going to use a couple different colors here. I'm just going for it. Oh, this nice magenta. Okay. Now I'm going to go in with the light color first. And this is a lot of paint. I will probably have to dry my brayer in between so we don't contaminate everything. And I may have to take some paint off. You want to, as a rule, be able to see your design. I'm sure a lot of you already know this. And after I do this pull, I think I'm going to speed this up and just kind of leave music in the background. Maybe do a little bit of a voiceover here and there when I have specific things that I want to tell you. We're going to speed this up so you guys get a better feel for some of the techniques and some of the different supplies I'm using to make these prints, but I don't want you to have to be bored by just watching me paint the plate and then literally watching paint dry, so not to worries. I'm not gonna bore y'all to death. Alright, sorry, I just gotta get a clean paper, take some paint off my brayer. Alright. Yeah, and like I said, if you have a print it didn't turn out the way you wanted, it's okay. We're gonna go back in, do some doodling, maybe paint with some watercolors, maybe take some acrylic paint and paint back over it. We're gonna be doing a whole lot of different things. Okay, I'm gonna show you how to rescue a failed print. I used prints as a base several times. I don't know if you guys remember, I did the Gelli extravaganza video, but I was doing image transfers with wrapping paper, and some of them, the image didn't transfer at all. And I used those papers as a base and still made something great out of them. So don't worry. Alright, put it down while it's still wet, and you want to smoosh. Alright, I'm gonna pick this up and see. This is gonna need some more time picking up this image transfer. So I'm gonna let this dry on the pad, and I will be back shortly to show you the final results. Okay, we're gonna do a pull here. Looks like we've transferred our image. I don't know, I think I waited maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You may need to wait longer. Kind of ripping the paper, got a little tear. I'm going to pull from the other side. Okay, not bad. Ooh, I really like this. Okay, so a couple things strike out at me. I can clearly see, the leaves. I really like the dimension. I like the color. I think if I were to do anything differently, I would get a little bit more yellow in there. And I think I would have used maybe a darker color down on the plate initially to do the imprint of the stencil, and then a lighter color to pick this up. But I really like this, and maybe later after this totally dries, we will do something to really amplify these leaves and these florals that we picked up, and really accentuate them. So I can't wait. Stay tuned. I like to think of the print as the beginning and not the end. Here you're going to see an example of a hot glue stencil image transfer. I love using hot glue stencils on my gel plate. I think they work just as well as any other stencil. Okay, next, once the hot glue stencils are down, we're going to be pulling that print. There will be a large white area where the stencil is. That's okay, so you don't have to get in and press real hard to try and get in between the grooves of the hot glue stencils. Just a quick press down, pull up is all you need. Set that paper aside. We're definitely not done with this yet. Pull off those hot glue stencils as gently as you can. Okay, now for the really fun part. We're going to go back in with our brush, and you may want to give that paint on the plate a couple of minutes to dry. You're going to go back in with whatever colors you want and accentuate the lines that the hot glue stencils have created. I'm so excited for this pull, guys. And by the way, if you wanted, you could have let that paint dry, the paint that we used to accentuate the lines that the stencils created, and then go over it with a whole nother layer of paint. I chose to just pull the image as is, and I love the results. Guys, I think of all of the prints that I did, this has to be one of my absolute favorite color schemes. I love the turquoise and the pink and the white together. Okay, you'll notice I start having some difficulty with the turquoise paint. I don't know what it was. The paint isn't that old, but it's like it really clumped up on me. So off camera, I had to like shake the heck out of it and give it a really good stir. And still, the texture wasn't right. I think I need to get some new acrylic paints. But anyways, if you're wondering why I'm struggling so hard to coat the jelly plate, that is why. So you'll see me using the same technique, pulling a print, and then this time I'm going to remove the hot glue stencils, and instead of accentuating the lines with different paints, I'm just going to pick the image right up. You obviously want to make sure you line it up the very best you can. You want to line up the white space with where the stencil imprints are. You'll see a little what looks like crackling on the plate. That's because I had some water left over in between cleaning my plate. My plate wasn't completely dry before I put the paint down, but I realized I kind of liked the texture of it, so I left it as is. Now I'm just laying down a bunch of stencils. I thought the purple, magenta, white color scheme lended itself perfect for like a floral fairy theme, and I think it'll look great in a spring journal, so that's what I ended up doing here. So first I take an impression with the stencils over. I didn't get a great print just because between all the stencils and the texture of the paint that was kind of like interspersed sporadically over the plate, there was a lot of white space, but that's okay. The final print after I take the stencils off, I really love, and I figured this will be a good base for something else. So this butterfly print I absolutely just end up loving. So I'm going to put paint down on my jelly plate as usual, but this time I'm going to go with an all white background. Okay, then I'm going to put the butterfly stencil over the plate, and this time I'm just going to go crazy with painting each butterfly a different color. I'm not going to let anything dry. Once I have painted all the butterflies, so you want to do this as quickly as possible. Once you've painted all the butterflies, you are just going to put the copy paper over top and pull the image straight away. And then, of course, once you pull that image, you can go ahead, take the stencil off, and then pull the image again with the white background and the outline of the butterflies that you have stenciled on your plate. So in this print, I'm just going to go a little bit crazy with the colors. I'm going for a red, orange, yellow, a really bright theme, knowing I'm going to make a floral print out of this. And again, I am absolutely loving the results. So again, for this print, you're going to see me layer multiple stencils on the plate. I love the look that this gives. Once you lay it down, don't fuss with it, don't move it or wiggle it, just put it straight down. Once your stencils are down, you're going to want to put your paper down and pull the print as usual. Once you pull your print, you're going to want to lift the stencils up, and then without any fuss at all, you have a second print, of course. I have to say the second print after I pulled off the stencils was my absolute favorite. And actually, I ended up getting a third print out of this because you'll see that my stencils were still totally wet. So I just lay them down on top of the copy paper. I get a third print. Okay, so you're gonna see a whole heck of a lot going on here, but first of all, I absolutely love the red, orange, and yellow color scheme, so that's the color scheme I chose for this next print. Again, here I decide to layer stencils. Once the stencils are down, I'm going to pull my print, and I actually use a piece of paper that I have used to clean my brayer on the other side. I think that will make a great base for something else. Next, I pull that print, and man, I absolutely love that color scheme. Next, you'll see me pulling up all the stencils just like usual. You'll see here that I had a ton of wet paint still left on one of the stencils, and it was too pretty. I had to pull a print from this, and I decided to take some green paint and paint the blank space in between the stencil. Stunning, right? Okay, so back to the drawing board. And finally, the pulled print. So I still have some prints of red and yellow and orange on my plate, and I decided to go with it. So here I'm just laying down all new stencils, and I am starting another print from scratch. I actually decided there was so much paint left on the plate and the stencils that I would just spritz it down with water, and I just pull the print directly from here without adding any additional paint. So I lay my paper straight down, and then I decide, well, while it's down here, we may as well create another print with those stencils. So I put them back on, and I get out a bunch of new paints, and I just start painting over the stencils. I think the dragonflies go with the theme of this journal perfectly, and oh my gosh, would you take a look at that fluorescent yellow? It's literally the brightest paint I've ever seen. I have to tell you guys, playing with the paints and the stencils is just so relaxing. There's something so much fun about this. Don't overthink it. Just put the stencils down, slap some paint on, and I promise you, you will be delighted with the results. Instead of a white background, I decided I wanted something brighter, so I end up just going around the stencils with some orange paint. Tear in the paper when I took that adhesive stencil off, so I end up just going back over the leaves and just kind of filling in where the paper tore. Then finally I pulled the last print off of the jelly plate. I wasn't about to waste any paint, so I do the same thing, put the stencils down, spritz it, pick up the print. So first of all, I decided I love that fluorescent lemon colored paint so much I have to use it again. And holy stencils, I just come in with a ton of my hot glue stencils, very whimsical stencils, you know, hearts, flowers, a sun. I just put it all down there. So I lay the copy paper down with the stencils on it, pick up the print, and then I'm very careful to remove the hot glue stencils and put the print down so that the whites line up with where these stenciled imprints are. And I love the technique. I love the results that you get when you do this. And then of course, I'm not gonna let those stencils go to waste, so I end up using the paint on them to create another print. So remember I told you if you weren't happy with the print, there's so much more you can do with it. It's okay, just keep going until you're happy with it. Well, I didn't think that the butterflies popped as much as I wanted, so I went in with one of my Colorista paint markers and just outlined the stencil imprint. And wow, I think it gave the butterfly such flair, and I love the color scheme. And yeah, I think this is the beginning of something great. And you'll see there are parts of the butterfly you can't really distinguish. It doesn't have to be precise, just pick up the marker and sketch what you think that the butterfly would look like. So this jelly image using stencils came out fabulous, but I felt that the white background was a little bit bland, so I took out my watercolors and simply just painted right over the acrylic paint so that the inside of the flower petals would be blue. The water and the watercolor doesn't affect the acrylic paint at all, so I just literally went right over it until I had covered the entire inside of the image. Next, I decided to cover all the white space surrounding the floral image, so I went around it with gelatos, and after I cover all the space, I will go over it with water and a sponge to really activate it, and it gives us this really nice metallic sheen, and again, I think it's absolutely gorgeous. So I have that beautiful butterfly print, but the opposite side is blank, so we're about to fix that. Here you're going to see me take some stencils and some paint markers and just go to town. The gelato doesn't fit in the stencil all that well, but after I put down a little bit, I'm just going to smush it around with my finger, maybe add a little bit of water, and it turns out great, I promise. I'm really happy how this came out. It's going to be a beautiful signature page. There's plenty of other room on the page left to do something else, which is what I intended. So now I'm going to put this away and we are going to work on another jelly stenciled print. So I love this floral stenciled print and I wanted something else in the foreground as a focal point. So I pulled out a bird stencil and here I am just tracing the outline of the birds onto the paper with those Colorista paint markers I showed you guys earlier. Finally, I take my Yasutomo shimmer watercolors and fill in the birds and the branches and the twigs, and you'll see me using my watercolors to paint on some more details, whether it be a beak, some eyes, some feathers, just to really bring these birds to life. Again, I talked earlier about not stopping if the print isn't exactly what you had hoped for, or if it's, not as detailed as you would like. If you find it bland, you can always dress it up. So here, I'm taking this stenciled image, the stenciled jelly print image transfer. I am taking this image of the bee and just accentuating the bee, the crown, some of the detail in there that I think gets lost just because there isn't quite as much contrast between the yellow and the white as I would have liked. So this was actually an image transfer that I absolutely adored. I just wanted to give it a little bit more character, so I went in with my watercolors and colored in the leaves, some of the flowers, the butterfly, and I love how this turned out. I love going back in with the watercolors because, as you see, it does not affect the acrylic paint at all. So you can kind of be a little bit sloppy with it. You don't have to worry about the watercolor slipping outside the lines or, affecting the sharpness of the image. Don't be afraid to add details. I think that really is what makes these prints so special. You can really make it your own. You don't have to color in what's already there. Whatever you can imagine or dream up, color it in, add some flair. I end up just filling in the butterfly and the flowers, but you could also, paint around that yellow, the entire yellow area with a really nice contrasting color. I think that would look gorgeous as well. So just like in one of the previous prints, I'm just going over these flowers with some watercolors to just give them a little bit more character. So even though I actually really like this print already as is, I'm going to use it as one of my signature pages, and I think there's just too much white, plain white left for me. So I'm going to accentuate each of the petals with some watercolors, and I'll probably go back in later and add some color to each of the petals themselves, maybe some sort of design, probably using different mixed media tools. I haven't exactly decided yet. So a few days ago, I painted some pages. I just used different brush strokes and put on some really bright colors onto copy paper and figured that this would make a great background for something. So while I had my stencils and my paint out, I just decided to go for it. And I used that fluorescent yellow that I'm in love with now and stenciled on some beautiful flowers. And I think these also will make either some great signature pages for the journal I'm working on, or some papers that I can utilize that I can cut up and make into ephemera pieces later. Okay guys, so I have to show you the final product. Some of these prints I left as is, some of them I dolled them up. I used various mixed media tools to do so, but the point was that I kept two very simple supplies, and I love how these turned out. Some of them I'm going to be using in the signature pages, and others I'm going to cut up and make beautiful pieces of ephemera with them. This was all just 4 stencils. A stencil. These were made with the hot glue gun stencils I have, and of course just swatches of different paints on my Gelli plate. Hot glue gun stencil print, stencils. Some of these are still kind of bare bones. They're going to make a great base for something. I love this one. This was a stencil and I went over the flowers with watercolor. A stencil and I went over the bee, the crown, and these little leaf things, doodle things with watercolor. This was a stenciled image. Actually a couple of different stencils. This was a stencil image I transferred from my gel plate. And then I stenciled over top with some birds with these Colorista paint markers, and then painted some additional details with watercolor. I gave them wings, painted in the branches. This was a purple background, and I transferred an image of flowers. I think I'm going to go around the flowers with something because I don't think they pop like I want them to. So I'm going to do something else to this. Butterflies, I love this. This I did with a stencil and these gelatos, Faber-Castell gelatos. Guys, pretty much all the supplies I use in my videos I put in the description box. If you're ever looking for something or wondering what I used, take a look down there. You'll probably find it, or just drop me a comment and I'll answer you as quick as possible. A stencil. Well, stencil on my gel plate. That was me just cleaning my brayer. Again, I think a great background for something else. This was a jelly plate stencil transfer, and then I didn't get the fine details I wanted, so I just went over it with another stencil and just directly painted it on. Image transfer with a gel plate. I used some hot glue stencils here, went back in over the white marks, and then stenciled directly on top of the paint, with paint of course. Stencils, like 3 or 4 different stencils here. I love these birds, love this. Stencils. Here I picked up the wet stencil. I just put this down on the wet stencil and picked up the image. Picked up a bunch of wet paint. These are all hot glue gun stencils, kind of whimsical looking. I'll probably do something else with this. I love this. I love this color scheme, turquoise and the pink. Again, I did all these with hot glue stencils. Maybe we'll do a video on that. This was blank, so I went over this blank page with gelatos, added a little water to it, and then I went ahead and I had a wet stencil that had that were just leaves, and I went over, well, there was turquoise pink paint on the stencil, so I just picked it up, and that was that. Stencil. Picked up this image from the gel plate, 2 stencils. I also picked up a paint from a stencil here, and this is the floral stencil I have, and I just went over it with watercolors. Stenciled image. I went over this stencil with acrylic paint. I obviously used too much paint, leaked. I think I'm gonna go back in with my gel or my paint markers here and outline the words and the bird to make it look more recognizable. You can't really see what that says. I love this. I picked up an image from a stencil I had left on my gel plate, and I went back in the negative areas, the white areas that didn't have any color, and just colored with watercolor. Love how that turned out. This was a series of stencils, and while the stencils were on, I patted it down to try and get that image on there, and then I went around the stencils with orange paint, and I love how this turned out. Or salmon, rather, I think is the name. How perfect for a spring page. Beautiful. Butterfly image transfer on my gel plate. I love this. This was, I put down yellow on my gel plate and picked up that floral stencil image. These were all done with hot glue gun stencils. This is a mirror image with a dream. That's okay, I'll find something to do with it. Oh, and I went back in on the white with paint. Image transfer from my gel plate, that butterfly stencil I love. This was picking it up like that. This was an image transfer. I'm going to outline this. I picked up the image successfully, but the colors that I used, I don't think they contrast enough that you can really easily see this. But I really do like the image and the color scheme. I think I'm just going to build on that. Picked up the stencil, my gel plate. I picked up that bee stencil with the pretty crown. This first was a page I was just using to clean my brayer. Stenciled image. These were more pages that I just took my brush and laid down, swatched down paint and used as a background. And I stenciled a really pretty flower on here, yellow flower. I'm going to outline it. I took my stencil and painted on those pretty leaves I was showing you earlier. I stenciled on this flower, and I picked up these butterflies and I went around this with one of my gold paint markers. I love how this came out. This is done with a stencil painted around it. This is a writing stencil. It's just paint swatches and writing. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this inspired you to make a whole stash of signature pages of your own, regardless of how you do it. I hope you enjoy yourself. I hope you get some good, bright prints out of this. There are obviously so many other ways to jelly, print, and pick up images aside from stencils. If you did enjoy this, please like and subscribe. My videos come out on Monday and Friday, and I can't wait to see you the next time.